and welcome back to the Rise and Align podcast, where we talk about all things high vibrational. We are your hosts. My name is Haley.
And I'm Demi, and today we're talking about how to protect your energy. So today we want to talk about both how to protect your energy from things that might affect the way you're feeling that you're consuming, as well as how to protect your energy in situations with people who you feel may be lowering your vibration. One of the first things, and we've mentioned it on many other episodes, is be really conscious of what you're consuming on your phone, especially in the morning and especially before you go to bed. There's just a ton on social media about what's happening in the news, and most of it really focuses on negativity. And I catch myself, especially lately, it's like all of the influencers are posting about what's happening overseas, and it's like you can't avoid it really. Whenever I notice things like that popping up, and it's not to say that it's not happening, and it's not to say that I don't care, but that I don't want to consume a ton of that because I don't want to be in that vibration. And I think that the only thing we can truly do to help is to stay in a positive vibration, because everything is made up of energy. So if you allow what you're consuming to lower your vibration and make you feel sad or scared or worried, you're really just adding to that energy and adding to that negativity that we really don't want the world to be more of. So I think the best thing to do is really to just set the phone down when things like that come up, close out of the app, do something that is more mindful, more in the present moment.
Right. And you are what you consume, right? And that is in terms of people and the things that you're viewing online. You become that vibration. So we can talk about social media, we can talk about people, who you are surrounding yourself with, what you're surrounding yourself with. You become a part of that vibration. So, a lot of this stuff being shared online is a very negative, scarce, scary, fearful vibration. And like you had just said, we don't need more of that in the world. And we get a lot of times, people feel guilty for not keeping up on what's going on in the world, or other people make you feel guilty for not keeping up on what's going on in the world. But here's the thing, worrying about it and watching content about it doesn't change it either. So by focusing on your own vibration, you are influencing the world in a more positive manner that can then ripple effect. That is not going to happen when you are also getting caught up in the fear of someone else's reality. You're getting caught up in the horrors of someone else's reality, because by law of vibration, we will literally bring more of that into our world if we're focusing on that. So I think it is so important to keep yourself grounded. Yes, you can keep yourself aware, but if you are suffering as a result of that, it's not worth it. It's not worth giving up your peace and your own vibration to something that is so horrible in the world.
Most definitely. Also, I think a good thing to think about, because a lot of people will say, well, you have to know what's going on. But if paying attention to things like that is making you feel badly about them, oftentimes when we're in a negative emotion, we don't think very clearly. And so we're not able to focus on the solutions, which is really what needs to happen during times like that. We really can't. The more you focus on the problem, the more energy you give to the problem. So the right thing to do, if you really want to help make a difference, is to stay in a positive vibration and focus on solutions rather than, the detriment of what might be happening. Another thing is so obviously we can choose who we want to spend time around. And I think that it's so important to be mindful of how do you feel when you're around certain people? If you don't feel like you can be yourself, if you don't feel comfortable, and granted, that does come with time. I know in relationships, you might feel nervous with somebody at first. But eventually you should really be comfortable and be able to be yourself, in a fairly short amount of time. But apart from choosing who we spend our time with, sometimes we just find ourselves in situations where we have to be around people. Maybe it's work or traveling, or who knows, you end up around strangers who complain, because unfortunately it is most people's habitual behavior to complain. And humans are really funny, because one person will be like, oh, my day was so crappy, and the other one will be like, mine was even worse, and they'll like compete for like who can complain more. Which is silly, because no one really wants to be focusing on that negativity or bringing more of that into their lives. And I think that's something that people don't recognize, is that complaining just brings about more of the emotion that you don't want. It just brings it more. You're reliving the circumstance in your mind, and you don't need to do that. And as you're doing that, you're affecting your own vibration and then creating the circumstance again and again. So if you're like, you know what, I don't want to join in to the complaining, what do I do in this circumstance? Like, how do I be kind and still be mindful of my own energy? And I think there are a few tricks to this. One, you can kind of interrupt the conversation a little bit in a polite way and just say, oh my gosh, look at the sky. It is flipping beautiful today, or compliment them on something that they do well, or so, like even something that they're wearing or something like that, because people do love compliments. They love to talk about themselves. Obviously, it has to be genuine, but if you can do that, you can often switch the direction of the conversation to a more positive one, to a lighter one, and kind of drop whatever it is that they might be ranting about. And I feel like that trick has helped me so much in life.
Yeah, that's super good. There's one thing that I've also noticed too, like working in retail and stuff, is someone comes in and they're doing whatever, and then, they have something negative to say. And instead of saying something back, I'll just kind of pause. And then they kind of think about it and they're like, oh my gosh. And then they'll change the subject themselves, or like it'll become a different conversation, because they're like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or like, wow, that was kind of rude of me, or that was kind of negative of me. It kind of like forces them to self-reflect immediately when they don't have that immediate response from you of like, yeah, today sucks or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah. I think that's so true. I think that because it's so habitual, like people often don't think about what they're saying, but yeah, if you do that, then they're going to think about what did I just say?
Yeah.
I think it makes such a difference to not join in on that ranting party too.
Right.
Or agree, but just to be like,
Yep. That's something that I've worked in billing too. And when you don't allow yourself to be kind of emotionally fueled by others, or get like into the vibration of them, you can de-escalate confrontation very quickly. So I would have a lot of confrontation in billing, because it's a very scarce aspect of people's lives, worried about money a lot. So, I'd have angry people calling or asking about, this or that, and it was a very scarce energy. And if you don't respond in that type of energy, it changes the direction of the conversation, and it helps to, just know that you're listening to them, you understand, and you're not reacting to them, because, fire and fire together, whatever, the gas in the flame just creates more fire, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if you can listen more, but also not fuel the fire, it can help a lot in like de-escalating conflict. And that doesn't even have to apply at work, but even in friendships and stuff. If you have a friend or someone who is confrontational or likes to start arguments, if you aren't allowing yourself to like participate in it, I think that goes a long way too.
Definitely. I was thinking, so I canceled my internet service the other day, and I was like not happy about it, because they had just raised what I was paying so much for no reason. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. I can just switch services, right? And so I didn't call in like a great vibration, but I wasn't really mad or anything. I was just like, I'm just going to call and get this done, right? That the guy was so friendly on the phone. Like, it was hard to tell him no. He was really trying to talk me into staying with this company. And I was like, listen, I'm sorry. Like, they just overcharged so much. They more than doubled what I was paying over the last couple of years. Like, it's just been crazy, and they're not even a good service. And he's like, well, this, and this. But he was so friendly about it that I was like, you're great at your job, you should get a raise, like you're awesome, I'm really sorry, I'm still gonna cancel. But it's like, when people are talking to you like that, it's hard to be negative back. I think that if you keep that positivity and kindness, and understand that even if somebody's not being kind to you, it's probably just coming from them not being happy. Like, it really just, people act out of their emotions. I've noticed the same thing in restaurant situations. A lot of people like don't understand how stressful serving can be, on top of the fact that a lot of people who choose to be servers may not have the best home life either. You know, like that's something that you do because it's fast cash and you don't need a degree to do it, and it's hard labor and it's stressful as well. And so sometimes when servers are like not good, people will take it really personally and they'll not tip them. They'll be rude to them. They'll say awful things to them. And I mean, sometimes it's not even the server's fault. Sometimes it's the cook messed it up or another server took their order. Like lots of things happen behind the scenes that we just don't know.
Right.
And I think like when somebody is not being quote unquote a good server, I always still tip them because like you don't know what's going on behind the scenes or why that's happened. And I don't think that it's good to pass on negativity. I think that it's better, even if they're really rude and it's totally their fault and they were just awful, if you still tip them and you're still kind to them, that might totally change. They might be like, oh my God, why did I do that? Like, maybe I should think this through. Like, maybe I should be nicer. You know, like they didn't deserve me to treat them that way. It will change a person's perspective if you treat them with kindness, even if they come at you with anger.
And it could change the course of the rest of their day. Maybe they'll be like, they'll just have a realization like, wow, that was really nice, and feel happier, and then carry that on through the rest of their customers for the rest of the day.
And then they're going to pass that vibration to everyone they come in encounter with too.
And that's another thing too. People who come into like retail spaces or restaurants, you know, the Karens that people, you know, we're calling them Karens, when they are passing this really terrible negativity onto someone who most likely doesn't deserve it, that person, if they are already having a really bad day or don't know how to protect themselves from that energy, that's going to get carried on throughout the rest of their day. Everyone they come in contact with, even if they're not like mean, but they're still going to not be necessarily happy or passing on a high vibrational. They're going to be worried about what happened earlier. And then that's going to get spread onto who knows how many people. Like, can you imagine a Starbucks employee, how many people they see in a day?
So
and how
many.
that would spread. And then those people, it just becomes like a ripple effect, no matter what way you're acting. The vibration that you carry is going to have a ripple effect out into the world, and you don't want to have that negative ripple putting that in the world.
So keeping that in mind, I wish that more people were energetically aware of emotions and how that affects the way that they act, because I think that I see a ton of celebrities and influencers and whatnot, and they feel pressure to be posting about what's going on, you know, around the world, like whatever it might be. Whether it's George Floyd or a war, or there's always something, and I feel that they feel pressure to post about it because they want to be like, of course I care, of course it's really sad, I'm a good person and I care. But what they're doing in sharing these sad words is making millions of people feel this sadness too. And that's not what they really want to spread.
Right.
I think that if anything, there should be more awareness of that.
Yeah.
And like how our emotions do affect our actions, and how our emotions and how sharing our emotions affect others. It's just the same concept as like you're sharing a sad story about something bad happened to a dog, or, you know, like it's like you really want to consider, if you're going to use social media, what are you sharing? What energy does your post have that you are sharing with people? And I think too, I've noticed trying to grow my own social media platforms, the higher vibration that I am in when I like film a video or make a post, and the more like that I care about it and put energy into it, the more likes I'll get. Always.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always about vibration and intentions and such. When you are posting, yes, there are people that are, you know, subscribed or following you that want to see your content, but that doesn't mean that you can't be aware of what you want to put out there. A lot of people are like, well, I can post whatever I want, whatever. Yes, you can if you believe that, fine. But you should still be mindful of the energy that you're putting into that post or that comment, because again, it's all vibration. You're putting that ripple effect into the world. So if you want to share a really sad post, like, yes, that can be therapeutic because you can connect with people who feel the same and whatever. And if that's your intention, to like make someone not feel alone, to create like support around that and have people connect around that, I think that's great, like building community and connection. But if you're posting something to just complain, to spread negativity, or to spread hate, to spread pain for no reason, like you're just kind of like vomiting out these negative vibrations without any sort of purpose or intention, I think that's where things can kind of go awry. So it's super important to be mindful of that. But also, kind of segueing from there, I think it's important to know how to protect yourself when there are people who are doing that. And coming back to this idea of social media, it's difficult because you have 24/7 access to your social media on your phone, which is next to you probably most of the time. That means that you're allowing these platforms with millions of people on them to have access to your energy at all times. We talk about people being energy vampires, but I think that social media can be that as well if you're not careful about what you're consuming, when you're consuming, who you're letting have access to you, and the times that you're letting them have access to you. So I think that it's super important to, one, set boundaries with social media and people in real life, because if you don't set boundaries, you're allowing yourself to be just open to whatever, and that can be really detrimental to your mental health. It can be detrimental to your energy, because you're just letting all of these energies like come into your home, which I think is my most sacred space. So I don't like to consume social media before I go to bed, right when I wake up, for more reasons than one, but that is a very sacred time that is good for like setting intentions, connecting with yourself, and that's just not something that I want infiltrating my safe space, because you never know what you're going to see on a lot of these platforms, especially like TikTok. You never know what's going to show up on your feed. And I've had it happen before where right before I go to bed, if I am, scrolling mindlessly on TikTok, some horrible news thing will show up. And then it's like impossible to let go of that.
Yes, and I think it's tricky that way, because once the video starts playing, it's really hard to not care.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really terrible one come up today, and I'm just not going to repeat it because I don't want to share it, but it was something violent, and I couldn't not watch it. There's some messed up human instinct that makes you so interested in other people's drama. And it's like, okay, no. And after I watched it, I was like, all right, that's enough of this. I'm getting off the app. Like, I need to just clear my mind. And I think a really important thing about protecting your energy is living a life in alignment, like getting to know yourself and practicing alignment, because when you know what it feels like to be aligned, it's really easy to feel when you're not aligned. And you start to become more conscious of what you are allowing into your mind or not. So whether you do come across, like, if the news is playing in the background of a restaurant, or if the radio, or if you're on social media, or if you're talking to somebody who's talking about something negative, you will immediately become aware, this is not something that I want to allow to impress my subconscious and allow to affect my emotions. This is something that I'm going to consciously reject. And I think that especially when it comes to in-person confrontation, people will talk about like, this person is sick and dying, or they'll talk about something like that, right? And it seems that you are not compassionate, or maybe a bad person, if you do not sync to that vibration with the person. But you can say, okay, that's really sad, and I'm sorry to hear that, and then let it go. And don't allow that, like, instead of like thinking about it and imagining it and thinking about how sad it is, you can say, you know what, that doesn't affect my personal life, and though it is sad, I don't have to allow it to affect the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is really important, and you can actually help that person more by not aligning your vibration to theirs,
Mm-hmm.
but instead to help them align to yours.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's super important. I've used a similar concept or technique when watching TV. Yes, you can control the TV show you're watching or the movie you're watching, but you can't control the commercials that come up. And commercials are expertly like made to control your subconscious mind. They know how to do it. So if you're not actively rejecting those when they come on, you are taking on a lot of those beliefs without even realizing it. You truly don't even realize that that's happening, especially in the morning or before you go to bed. So every time a commercial comes on, if I'm not able to mute it, I am consciously like, I do not allow this to come. I'm either imagining white light around me, or I'm just saying, nope, I do not accept this as a belief. Nope, I don't accept this. And I think that's so important because commercials are everywhere. And I know that there are some random company slogans that you've heard on the radio or that you've heard on commercials that you could sing their song for in a heartbeat. You don't even know why. It's just because they know how to program your mind.
Arrowhead out of body.
Saving money at Menards.
I'm loving it.
Not sponsored. But it's like, it's silly, but also like that's the reality. We don't know what other things we are taking in when we're mindlessly watching this stuff. So
I took a communications course one time in college, and they taught us how they literally study the subconscious mind and embed all kinds of different concepts within commercials, not only like hidden messages visually, but basically they put words that you don't hear on a conscious level that seep into your subconscious. Subliminal messaging is the word for it. They put that in all kinds of commercials as well as TV shows and who knows what else. So yeah, I think it is just so important to be conscious of how you're feeling and to maintain alignment on a consistent basis, like by doing your practices. And if you don't know what that means, check out our first episode on what it means to be aligned, and every other episode on how to stay that way.
Yep. Something that kind of goes along with that is when you're using social media, you should have an intention going into it. Like you want it to be a positive experience. You want to get something good out of it. So if you're scrolling and you're feeling like negative things come up, self-doubt, whatever, comparison, or you're taking in news or something, and it takes a lot of awareness. But if you start to notice your vibration shifting to that more negative space, use that as a trigger to stop and put the phone down and do something that makes you happy. Do something that relaxes you. Do something to switch up that vibration so that you can come back into alignment. And I also think that it is super important to find hobbies that you enjoy, that you can do other than scrolling on social media. If we're still talking about social media, like find other things you can do. Like we do a lot of practices that we know brings us back into alignment, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a spiritual practice. It can be a sport. It can be like knitting. It can be reading. It can be anything. But I think if you don't have hobbies, you need to start exploring different ways that you can spend your time, because if you find things that you enjoy, you'll naturally want to do that over social media, and it'll also bring you more joy than scrolling on social media.
I think the most important part of choosing a hobby is choosing something that brings you to the present moment, something that is mindful, no matter what that is. Like she said, sports, whatever, dancing, reading, painting, anything.
Cooking.
Yes. Anything that will bring you into the present moment, that will help keep you aligned. And I was thinking about too, so when you're talking to people, a lot of times people want each other's opinions and advice. And I think that sometimes comes from a place of like lacking trust in yourself and your own intuition, and like not really knowing yourself or what you want. So I think the more time you spend getting to know yourself and being present and aligned, the less that you question your own judgment and intuition. But I think it's also important to be mindful of the source. So if you are asking for advice and somebody makes you feel bad about whatever it is that you're asking about, you want to consider, are they in a place in that area of life that I want to adapt? If you're asking about a relationship, like, are they happily married? If you're asking about finances, like, are they wealthy? If you're asking about health, are they healthy? I just think that those things are important, because a lot of times if people don't believe in themselves, or if they're not happy, they'll accidentally give you advice that's going to make you feel bad about a subject. And even if it's not that, nobody knows how you feel. Like, nobody can feel your intuition, and nobody can make decisions for you, you know, and they shouldn't. And I think that's something that I've made the mistake of sometimes too, because I do believe that sometimes your friends and family know you better than yourself, and they want what's best for you, maybe even more than you want that for yourself. But in doing that, I've also doubted my own intuition, and, you know, maybe even valued their opinions more than my own feeling. And that will make you act differently in a scenario, which will then change the outcome of the scenario as well.
Yeah. I think absolutely always listen inwards, and that requires time off your phone. That requires time by yourself, away from people. That requires you to go inwards. And we talk about that on a lot of episodes, different ways that you can do that. We probably talk a lot about it in the alignment episode. But knowing what feels good and bad, what feels right and wrong within, can help ease some of that like projection that you can get or seek from others. But also kind of going back to setting boundaries of like being careful of who you share what with. And if you do share something with someone and they have a negative reaction, or, you know, say something that you don't really resonate with or align with, you don't have to take that on. Like we kind of talked about earlier, you can say like, nope, I don't allow this to enter my energy or whatever, you know. You don't have to take on what they say necessarily. So kind of having this like energetic, and I say this lightly because you don't want to build yourself up too far behind this wall, but have like a, you know, maybe a piece of paper, a filter, coffee filter between you and the person that you're talking to, and just being like careful of what you allow to like come through that filter, I guess.
I think that's the purpose of our conscious mind, you know, is to have that ability to become aware of what we are consuming. And the more you practice that, the better you'll be at it. And I think too, like the more that you spend that time with yourself, and the more you love yourself and care about yourself, like the more you're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to take that on. You know, or like I recognize that what is being preached right now doesn't feel good, or you know, the scenario that I'm in doesn't feel good. And it can be hard, like especially coming from a young age. I think people so badly want to be connected and accepted by others that they will do things that are not aligned with them just because they like want the friendship, or you know, also people want to be looked at as good people, and we're taught that selfishness is bad, and I don't think it's true. I think that selfishness about the way you feel is actually selflessness, because the higher vibration you are, the more you're going to spread that, and the more you're going to help the world. So I think that we have to be selfish in the way that we feel. If you're not selfish in the way that you feel, it's actually energetically really messy, because one, we are the center of our own universe. We are the attraction point for our reality, and nobody else can act or attract the reality that we experience, right? So if we are acting in order to be quote unquote selfless or to like make other people happy, we're actually giving away that power and depleting our own energy and not realizing that in doing that and neglecting ourselves, we're not only telling ourselves that we're unworthy of that love or that self-care or whatever, but we're also spreading that unworthiness to other people as well. And then we're showing up as that unworthy version of ourselves rather than like a happy, self-loving person who can really help other people get to that vibration.
Yeah. It's like the concept of filling your cup before you can have anything to give others. You can't give on empty. Like you can't give when you don't have anything to give. And that is why it's so important to protect your energy and practice self-care and practice mindfulness and awareness, because when you are able to show up in this grounded space, knowing who you are, knowing how you want to show up in the world, and having the boundaries in place to allow yourself to do that, then things fall into place. And like you said, it is messy when you don't have that or you don't do that, because you have less control of how you react to things. You have less control of how you're showing up in the world. You're not able to give as much as you would be able to otherwise.
For some reason, I think of a lot of situations with young people and their friends, like going out to the bars, for example. A lot of times people will, in college, that's like a regular thing to do, is they go out all the time. And then they feel that they need to go out in order to have these friends. And I think it's because they don't know themselves yet. Because they're like, well, truthfully, I don't really like getting drunk. I spend a lot of money. I'm tired. I'm hungover. Like, actually, all of it's bad, you know? And if I think about it, like, these people aren't happy either. But for some reason, it's like that need to be accepted. It brainwashes them a bit into acting these ways that they otherwise wouldn't if they knew themselves and, like, were truly aligned. And I think it's the same, not just, like, going to the bars, but like, people often want to save their friends or their significant other, and they don't realize that in giving all their energy to this other person, they're lowering both vibrations. One, if the other person isn't ready to hear that or isn't asking for that help, they're not going to change. And two, like, you're losing yourself in trying to help them. You're giving away all your energy. You're lowering your own vibration. It's just bad for everyone.
Yeah,
it
totally.
really doesn't. It really doesn't help, even
Absolutely.
though you might be coming from that place of wanting to help and wanting to save them. You know, I think that true change often comes from inspiration rather than a forceful act.
Yeah, I don't think you can force change on anyone, at least long-term sustainably. They have to do that themselves.
And I think too that the more that you do get to know yourself and love yourself and value your energy and really make decisions that are aligned with you, you might realize that friends you've had for a lifetime, or maybe even your family, you can love them and still not necessarily spend a bunch of time with them or need to talk to them all the time or go do things with them that are just not aligned with you. It's okay to say no and to protect your energy. When you think about, okay, how would it feel to go do this? Whatever this person is asking me to do, how would it feel? Is it going to make you feel good? Are you going to be able to keep your energy high while you're with them? Or is it going to drain you? Is it going to make you feel bad? Is it going to make you feel tired and depressed? Like, thinking about those things, is it going to make you anxious? If yes to any of that, then don't do it.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful and so important. A major part of my journey, and I've talked about this, I think, in our, I don't know if we called it our mental health episode, but I've struggled with anxiety, people pleasing, whatever. And in order to heal, I had to let go of the things that made me feel that way when I did them. And one of those things being family members that made me feel anxious when I was with them, or horrible, or whatever. Like, it didn't feel aligned to be with them. And I feel like a lot of people have this perspective of like, but they're family, they're blood, whatever. But I have cut ties with a significant amount of my family because of how horrible I would feel around them or with them. And a lot of times I think that stems from trauma from childhood. You're naturally going to have a negative response or reaction when you are with someone who may have been a part of a major traumatic experience when you were growing up. And for my healing and for my mental health, like I had to cut ties with different area of my family, involved in things that I didn't want a part of my energetic vibration. And that to some people seems heartless, but actually that's the best thing I could have ever done for myself, and to just not allow myself to be around that. And I wouldn't be the person who I am today if I was around those people, bringing my energy down, bringing my vibration down. I would be an entirely different person, and I would not be sitting here right now.
And you'd be spreading that to other people too. You know, so many people think that not only with their family, but with like long-term friends or relationships. They think like, well, this person has been my friend forever. We've been through so many things together. And like, yeah, like that might be true. And you might love them and want the absolute best for them. But that doesn't mean that you need to stay close friends with them and talk to them all the time or hang out with them if they're doing things that are going to lower your vibration. If they're not like, and I think people mistake time or blood for true friendship a lot of times too. And they don't really consider like, why do I think that this person is a good friend? Are they genuinely supportive? Do they genuinely want what's best for me? Yeah. Are they making good decisions? Are they healthy? Do I want to be like them? Like, energy is contagious, and you do become like the people you spend the most time with. So if you don't want to be like that person, then maybe you don't want to spend so much energy and time with them, you know?
I'd rather be by myself.
And that doesn't mean that you're heartless. Actually, I think that really you're probably going to help yourself and the world, and maybe even that person more so by spending less of your time and energy with them. One, that can make them realize like, I wonder why they don't want to spend time with me anymore. I know for me, some of the people that I used to spend a lot of time with, we just really went on different paths. And I think that they realize like, wow, she's a lot healthier in, you know, mentally and physically and in a whole bunch of different ways now. Like maybe I should consider what I'm doing, you know? I think that it can make a person question if they lose a long-term friend, like maybe I should change, you know? And that could be a catalyst for massive growth for somebody. Also, especially in relationships, I find people will be like, well, I love them. I've been with them for so long. Like I can't leave them. But if you're not truly in love with somebody, it actually hurts you both to stay together. Because would you really want to be spending like time and energy and life, which is precious and short, on somebody who isn't really in love with you? I mean, I really believe that you could find somebody who is in love with you. And so therefore, if you're not in love with someone, you shouldn't waste their time and stay with them. You know, it's not heartless to leave. It's actually selfless. It can be scary and hard, but it is what's best for both of you. You know, and same within friendships. Like you don't really want to be around somebody who sees you as like a villain, who sees you as a bad person, or who's jealous of you, or, you know, who low key like wants you to fail. Like that's not somebody you want to be around, and you don't want to be that person around someone else either. Yeah, that's super good. I feel like I have a couple things to play off of that. Going back to this idea of family, it can be difficult. You know, not a lot of people want to cut off family members from their life. I still have people in my immediate life that are really negative and in that vibration. And I will say they're older, you know, so to me, it's like they're kind of set in their ways, whatever, you know. So when I'm around them, you know, and they're in their state of anger or whatever, and I just kind of laugh at them, and I'm like, okay, yeah, have fun with that, you know. And I just like, it's kind of back to what we said at the beginning of like reflecting or deflecting off of you, or, you know, you kind of imagine yourself as like a mirror. You can reflect it back at them and not let yourself take that on. So this same person watches the news all the time. It's usually on when I'm there, and it's just like I've been able to
kind of deflect that and not take that in. So when you're able to protect yourself and you know how, then I think it's not as big of a deal to be around these people.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot take on that vibration, you know how to, protect yourself. And I've talked about it before in a few episodes. I always envision myself in white light. I found that very healing, but also protective, and that it's helped me in a multitude of different situations. One being, with a situation like this. Another thing is, like, at night before you go to bed, you watch something negative, or sometimes you have, like, you feel like a presence of something. You imagine this white light around you or your bedroom or your house, and you're all good. It's all good. It fixes everything, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But also going off this idea of having potential friends or coworkers or people around you that are, your friends, but they're low-key jealous or wishing you to not have the success, what kind of people I'm talking about. I have a few recommendations of, like, tools that I want to recommend to you guys, but one of them being an evil eye amulet. You may not know what that is off the top of your head, but if you looked up a picture of it, you will know what I'm talking about. You'll know what I'm talking about. You will have seen them somewhere. But basically, they reflect this evil eye or this person wishing you harm, or jealousy or whatever. It just reflects that back at them, so that you are not taking in that. So if you have a specific person that you kind of know might be wishing you ill will, or you just kind of feel that energy around you, I think that is just like a fun, you can wear it on a necklace, or you can get a sticker, just to have that, like, amulet around. And it's actually an ancient tool.
Yes, love that. Completely agree. Obviously, I know you're going to talk about crystals. Because that's definitely one. I'm going to let you talk about that. But I want to touch on the white light thing. I absolutely love that practice. I think that even if you are not spiritual and you're like, I don't know, that sounds kind of crazy to me, the point of that practice is to align with the feeling of safety, of protection, of cleansed energy. And we do actually have an energetic field around us. That is a real thing. It is a scientific quantum physics thing. So I do really find it to be effective, but just feeling safe will make you act safer. And I love doing that before I go out in a crowd, before I go meet up with somebody whose energy might be questionable, as well as afterwards, just kind of using it as an energetic cleanse. And, before bed, it's a great time to do it as well. There's really no bad time, but I think that energy cleansing can really help you too. Like, if you did get into a situation that was negative or traumatic, or you just had a stressful day, like, it happens to all of us. It's just life. To come home and decompress and really just cleanse your energy, whether that be just like taking a shower or a hot bath or doing a meditation practice like that. Energy cleansing is really, really helpful. Using sage, whatever your practices are, just to be mindful of letting that energy go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like the concept of shielding your energy and cleansing your energy. So, like, smoke cleanses are one of my favorite things. You can use candles. Candles actually can symbolize a lot of different things depending on the color magic, but it also symbolizes, like, purity. So when you are lighting a candle, you can kind of think of it like purifying your space. There's also a number of smoke cleansing options with herbs that you can use, incense, Palo Santo, that have energetic correspondences of cleansing your space, purifying your space, calming, grounding. And you can actually burn those safely in your home and let that cleanse your energy, or kind of set your energy for the day. So at my desk, actually nearby my desk in the mornings, I will either light a candle, light sage, or light incense. And it kind of really sets the tone for the day because it is relaxing, mostly because it does clear your energy so you feel calm, centered, and grounded and ready to go. And then at the end of the day, especially when something happens that does kind of shift my energy, I always do a smoke cleanse. And I also like to do that before a yoga class as well, because then it allows you to become more present in the moment and you're not carrying on to all these worries from the day. But it can be really good to also cleanse your house or your space if there has been someone negative in your space, or you just have stagnant energy. It can be a great way to clear the air.
So they say putting iron stakes at all four corners of your property will protect it from negative energy or negative people or evil spirits coming into your space. Obviously, you want to be mindful of who you're inviting into your house too, but definitely cleanse if it's questionable. Or cleanse all the time for that matter. You don't need other people's energy.
Yes.
Same with salt. Like putting salt at your doorways, and even I've heard of people putting it on their floors intentionally, and sometimes with like lavender or other things, and then sweeping it through the house just to cleanse.
Yes, that was one thing I was going to recommend as well. Salt. It is, again, another purification thing, and it purifies the energy. And another thing kind of along those lines that's witchy is that it is recommended not to put welcome signs outside of your house, or like hello or come on in, because that does symbolize unwanted energy being welcomed into your home. So kind of silly, but I don't know. I like it.
I don't know. Like right before we started filming this episode, we were watching a vampire show, and the vampire accidentally was let in because there was a welcome mat. So I mean, is it silly?
Yes. So you can get a mat, but don't get a welcome mat. Okay. And then of course, crystals are an amazing tool. I'm always going to suggest them, and I have them available for you. You can shop them, whatever. Superior Crystal Coven. But there are a few that I'll recommend just for the heck of it. So amethyst, I'm sure you all know what amethyst is. It is really great for spiritual protection, and it's also really good for calming, helping you connect to your intuition, and just helping with anxiety. And, a lot of anxiety can be a result of taking on other people's energy. Pretty much all black crystals are going to be great for either shielding or protecting your energy. Obsidian absorbs negative energy. It purges toxic thought patterns, and that could be patterns that you've taken on from other people. And it protects your energy. Black tourmaline also protects against negativity and helps you stay grounded. And then hematite, same thing, in addition to helping you stay grounded and shielding you against negativity. It helps with stress and anxiety and promotes inner peace. And then I do like to recommend selenite as well, because it is kind of the ultimate purification crystal. It doesn't need to be cleansed because it's naturally cleansing. So having it in your space, it's super high vibrational, and it will kind of overcome any negative vibrations in your space. So I recommend having them in your space, at your desk, in your car, wearing them, whatever. Like, having crystals around are a really great tool. If you want to know more about that, we've talked about it in other episodes, and we'll have a dedicated episode at some point. And then the last thing I would just recommend is you can also use affirmations when you're cleansing, like your home, or you can use them for yourself. So just some examples of some good affirmations that you could use is, I clear my energy field of all frequencies that are not mine. I release this day. My space is loving, protective, clear. And then if you're cleansing your space, you could say, as I light this sage, Palo Santo, whatever. Please protect me from any and all negative forces and light the most aligned path ahead.
I am safe. I am divinely protected. I'm divinely guided. I use things like that often when I feel any type of weird way out in public or even at home.
Any type of weird way.
Any type of weird way.
That's when I be feeling a weird type of way.
I really try to avoid other people, but no, it's funny. I've listened to Abraham Hicks a lot, and she always talks about, like, you can stay in alignment pretty easily by yourself all day, every day. It's when you come in contact with other humans.
Isn't that the truth? I think that's why I protected myself so heavily. I've talked about in the past becoming so protective of my energy that it became easy to not take on other people's energy because I was by myself all the time.